We have one more talk before we take a short break and come back for more. I'm really thrilled about our next guest, Robert Rosenthal, known to friends and the rest of the world as Rosey, is an award-winning journalist. He's now executive director of the Center for Investigative Reporting, doing his part to keep investigative journalism alive and well. He's going to tell us a little bit about his journey, how he got there.
Cool. So, as a boy, I knew that words would take me places, but I didn't know how, words and stories. And as a young boy, I actually delivered the paper, and this is taking too long. And I learned that taking a newspaper to people's homes, they actually wanted the stories in it and the information. So I realized at some point, that's not me, I was going to somehow figure this out and take a journey through words, and it would take me on a journey to places that I couldn't even imagine where I would go. And then when I was 21, I walked into the newsroom of the New York Times, and the typewriters pounding away, the cigarette burns on the linoleum floor, the smoke, and the energy of every day having to put out a paper. Soon after, I got a phone call, and someone said, come to room 1111 at the Hilton Hotel, and I became part of the Pentagon Papers team. I was 22 years old. I actually Xeroxed them. I learned about the power of the press and its role in democracy, and it taught me values that I carried through my entire career. As a young man, I left and went to the Boston Globe, but I really dreamed about going to different places. I was a young reporter. I wanted to see the world. I wanted adventure. I wanted to be a foreign correspondent. So soon after, I left and I joined the Philadelphia Inquirer, which was one of the hottest papers in the country then. And that took me to Africa, where I became a foreign correspondent based in Nairobi, and I saw things I never could have imagined, from tremendous depravity to people who really needed help. And I saw that stories translated across every border. I worked in 28 countries. It was a thrill of a lifetime, but I also ended up in Beirut, where I witnessed war as a correspondent and saw the worst of man. And I saw the value also of true storytelling and accuracy. And I realized in that environment, the medium and the message really led to horrible things, and the fractures between people had to be bridged. When I came home, they turned me into an editor. And I went back and forth about what I had learned in Africa, the adventures I had learned, and the connections I'd made to people. And those values and the empathy I had helped me become a leader, because I understood what it took to be a foreign correspondent. I understood what it took to get to this story. And somehow, eventually, I reached the pinnacle. I reached the mountaintop. I became the editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer, one of the best newspapers in America. And immediately, I was in a complete clash of values with what I called the money side. The creative side and the money side were not in alignment. It led to my being executed. I got fired after 4 years in Philadelphia, and the real clash was over values. And I learned going forward that I was not going to face the guillotine again. But I made the choice to stay in journalism, and I thought I had one more paper in me, and I really believed in the role of a newspaper in a community in the world. And I crossed the United States, and I came to California, and I'm going a little ahead of my slides. And I saw the Golden Gate Bridge for the first time, and I came to San Francisco, where I was the managing editor of the Chronicle. But what I found at the Chronicle was an organization that really was in decline, that had lost its ambition if it ever had it. And I realized that in the future, the new model had to meet the journalists and the money side, and the values had to be in complete alignment. So I eventually left the Chronicle, and I was in a desert. I had no idea what the hell I was going to do, but I knew I had to be involved in something that was going to take me to the future, that was going to value the things I had learned my entire career, and where the story and the message and the role of the press and democracy was going to be crucial. So I decided I would take a brand new voyage and go on another journey that would take me to places where I had never been. So I got on this ship, not really, but I took an adventure, and I decided I was not going to go to a newspaper. I had to go to a new place, and I ended up, after about 10 months, I was without a job. And then while this time, something happened in Oakland, where a man named Chauncey Bailey, who was a journalist, who was the editor of the Oakland Post, was going to work one day, and a gunman ran up to him with a shotgun and basically blew his head off, because he was a journalist, because he was a storyteller, because he was going after the truth. I was asked to run something that became known as the Chauncey Bailey Project to try and get at the truth. And it reminded me of the fact that journalists are one of the few professions that are killed for what they do, because they stand up to power, truth to power. Lenin believed that ideas were more dangerous than guns, and in his government, the press was an enemy. You were fettered, you were locked down. When the Founding Fathers created the United States, they believed in freedom of the press and the freedom of information and the power of the press as opposed to the government. Jefferson believed that he'd rather have a free press than a government if it came to that. He understood the world they lived in where language and words were threats to power and really how crucial information was. Which led me to a totally new place, a place where in a time of collapse of media, I was going to try and build something. And my idea was very simple. At the center of every story, and the way stories are told, is the information. But in the new world, it had to go out in all the different spokes that were being created. The new technology had to be married and really brought. People wanted to get information, but in the way they wanted to be. So how could you get an environment where you could really tell a story on multiple platforms in really powerful ways? Which led me to the Center for Investigative Reporting. I had no idea what it was like to run a nonprofit. I had no idea what it would take to do it. When I got there, the center was almost on its last legs. There were 6 people. The budget was under $1 million, and it was an incredibly difficult world. I had to learn to raise money, and it was like begging. I hated it. I'm not good at it, but I was passionate about the story, and I became very good at it because I believed in the journalism, I believed in the message, and I believed in the role of the press in protecting democracy. So suddenly I learned how to perform. I became a performer, and in 3 years, the center now has over 30 people. The budget is going up over 500%. It's over $5 million. We're doing really important work on every platform, trying to reach audiences in completely new ways and really be an incubator and an innovator, marrying all the technology that's being created. And we're going to take that technology to as many people in the world as we can and tell them stories the way they want to get them, but also make a difference. Thank you.